Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling Podcast. Today, I have Anthony Eisenman with me today. He is the National Accounts Manager at NAFCO. Anthony, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to chat about sales. Anytime I get an opportunity to do that, man, I'm always excited.
Brilliant. Like the first most difficult step is getting an appointment, and you're dealing with national accounts. So those people are well protected. So walk us through your strategy on how you can. Actually, I'm going to stop you there just for a second, Anthony. We're going to start this again. Keep it rolling, but move your mic back a bit. I'm seeing it's clipping the. Now say hello again.
Hello?
Much better. Before it was like clipping at the top. I could see on my side of the screen. Let's start again. And we'll start at the 1 minute mark so the editor can edit easily. Glenn, edit at the 1 minute mark. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling Podcast, where we interview industry leaders on how they grow their people, how they grow their teams, how they grow themselves. And today, we've got the privilege of having Anthony Eisenman here today. He is the National Accounts Manager at NAVCO. Anthony, welcome to the program.
Yeah, excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity, man. Looking forward to it.
So, you got a ton of awards behind you on the wall. Tell us about the awards.
Well, it's funny. I never used to put the awards up because, I'm always focused on, and as you know, in sales, everybody's always focused on what can you do for me? What have you done for me lately? Right.
Yep.
So, but as we moved into doing more work at home, right, in the home office, my kids told me I got to put up the awards. And so, I grabbed a few and threw them up. But it's a good reminder of all the hard work you put in. But as you know, man, it's all about what's next, right?
Absolutely. So there's a spot missing behind you. Is that for your head or is that for an award that you're waiting to get? I must get this award.
No. So that's my 6-year-old playing with my awards and knocking it off the wall there. So,
I love it.
that one's got to go back up.
Gotta love kids. So what's your favorite sales movie?
My favorite sales movie. Oh man. I mean, I liked Boiler Room. I mean, I think that was a really, really good one just because I loved that like call center atmosphere. Obviously, I like to keep things ethical, right? But at the end of the day, I think the energy in a sales environment like that is pretty cool. So
Absolutely. And have you ever seen The Big Kahuna?
I haven't. No, I've never seen that. Is that a sales movie?
It's a sales movie, Kevin Spacey, and it's about landing this big account. And so in years gone by, what was like a really good gift was the top 10 sales movies on DVD. But now DVD is a thing of the past. So you can't really go, I got you a subscription to get these 10 movies, but not as cool. So you handle big accounts, and like when people call small accounts, it's hard to get hold of the decision maker. It must be doubly hard when you're talking about a national organization where the decision maker is well protected. So walk us through maybe three different scenarios. One of someone that you absolutely had to get, but it took work to get that person on the phone. The second one where it was just a piece of cake, might have been through a referral introduction. And the third one somewhere in the middle. And think about a specific account. You don't have to name them. That way you can go, oh yeah, I remember. So walk us through the three scenarios. Really tough to get, super easy to get, and somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And you made a good point. The small to medium sized businesses, are tough too, because at the end of the day, you're trying to get a hold of probably the owner, right, of the company. But the large organizations is tough in just a different scenario, right? So you're probably dealing with somebody in the C-suite, and you really have to be strategic about how you get it. So the hardest way to do it is obviously not knowing anybody in the organization, not having a referral, not having any relationship at all. And really when I've had the most success with that is trying to build a relationship regionally, right? So most of the companies in the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 they're going to have multiple locations across the country,
Right.
and there's going to be different regions where you can build an inside coach, right, or a champion, and build a relationship that way. And then maybe build like a proof of concept with that person. And then you can take that and package it up and then kind of roll it up to the corporate office. And you already have some data that will resonate with them, because you've already kind of built this within their organization, right? So I think on the really large companies where you don't have a relationship, trying to find and build something out regionally is the best way to do it, right? So that's the kind of the cold way to do it. The middle way, is if you're on the phone and you're trying to just get on the phone with maybe a chief financial officer or chief marketing officer, whoever your end user buyer is, if you can find somebody within the organization that can give you some information over the phone, maybe a
Right.
salesperson, right? Because
They're the
salespeople, we always
best.
want to help other people, other salespeople, right?
Yeah.
Um, or if you can go, maybe you want to get in front of the vice president of logistics, right? Maybe if you even go above them, right, and you get somebody on the phone, they're not the person that's going to make that decision, but they'll say, hey, you need to call Kevin, who's the vice president of logistics. Now you have an email where you say, hey, I talked to your CFO, and he told me to give you a call. A lot of times that'll resonate with people as well. And then obviously the best and easiest way is to get a referral, right? So if you can, have somebody that you've done business with, you've created an ROI, you build a relationship, they trust you, and they can open up the conversation in some sort of email or soft email fashion. That's obviously the best way to do it. And what I tell people on referrals is it's not a slam dunk. You're not going to obviously get that business, but if someone's going to refer you, just say, hey, listen, we appreciate the referral. I just want to sit down and talk and see if maybe I can understand your goals and challenges a little bit better. We may not be able to help you, but we may be able to help you, right? So that kind of disarms them a little bit. That's the best way to get in on a referral.
So tell me, walk me through the first 30 seconds of a cold call that you do.
So
Just
first 30 seconds, right, is, I want to do a couple things. I want to address the prospect by their name, right? I always think that that's super important. I want to tell them the reason for my phone call early on in the call, right? I want to get some I want to provide some credibility,
Mhm.
right? Though that's really the first, 30 seconds. So, hey, Mr. President, my name's Anthony. I'm with X, Y, and Z. We've worked with companies just like yours, and then maybe name a couple referrals. The reason for my phone call is I'd like to get a meeting with you. I want to get that right out of the way
Right.
early, right? I don't want to drag anything out. And so those are the first three things I like to do within a cold call. And a lot of people, the strategy with letting somebody know why you're calling right away has always worked for me. And I think some salespeople are afraid to kind of hit that rate in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, because it's not a secret that you're doing a cold call. So talk to me about adding value on that call or proving. So we work with companies like yours. Isn't really that we work with XYZ company helps. Do you sometimes share data? We helped company X do this
Absolutely.
thing.
Yeah, so specificity is super important, right? So if I can somehow build in, a percentages, time frames, dollar amounts, right? So, hey, listen, we work with company like yours, XYZ company, we've been able to cut their construction costs by 15% or something like that. So early on in a cold call, if I have enough data, right, if I've done some due diligence, which is going to help me get the meeting a little bit faster, I'll say, hey, listen, Umar, I read in the New York Times that you guys are opening up 15 new restaurants or whatever the vertical is in the next 2 years. The reason for my call is because, we help companies like yours in the restaurant vertical save XYZ on their construction costs or whatever. And I think we may be able to help you. That's really the best way to do it. So if you can get some data on your prospect before calling and then add some specificity to that, that could be huge.
So are you like a solo warrior out there? You're just a national account manager, and do you have a team underneath you?
So I do not, right? So I've been doing this for a long time, and as once you get to a certain level and a certain revenue generation, everybody wants you to start managing salespeople. So I've tried that, and I didn't enjoy it as much as just being customer facing and driving revenue. That's just what I love to do. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's all about what you want to do as far as your personal goals, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with staying in the field and generating revenue because that's one of the most important things.
And it takes bravery because a lot of times, when you get invited to manage, it's really, really attractive to say, yes, I want to do that. But if you don't have the skill set for it, and it's going to distract you from, because a lot of times they still want you to produce, that it just becomes a lose lose situation for everybody.
Exactly. It's the number one thing that happened to me. I still had my book of business. I was still responsible for a certain revenue generation, but then all of a sudden I became responsible for everybody else's revenue generation as well. So it was an amicable split. But hey, listen, at the end of the day, I'm back to doing what I love to do most. At the end of the day, I want to be revenue generating. I don't want to be overhead, right? So it's good.
Absolutely. So, do people reach out to you within the organization on the sales side to say, "Hey, Anthony, I got this problem. How do I solve it?" Do you get any of those calls?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I first started, 10 years ago in national accounts, I was doing the same thing, right? I wanted to find the people that were successful, that were driving a ton of business. And I used to pick their brain all the time, right? So, and I take what they've done, take their successes, and then kind of make them my own. And I tell all the new salespeople that as well, right? So I'm always available. New salespeople are always calling, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. And I tell them the same thing. Take what worked for me, what resonates with you, but then make it your own, right? So you have
Yeah.
your own personality. But absolutely, always available to help new sales guys.
So, who do you reach out to now? Do you reach out to anybody when you want to kind of get talk things through? Like, who's that go-to person for you?
Yeah, so that I have a really really good relationship with our executive vice president of sales. It's actually a lady. She's been in sales for forever. She's probably the best salesperson I know.
What's her
Um,
name?
Her name's Angie Barnes. She's a great salesperson. She leads our entire sales organization now. So she actually hired me a long time ago. So it's a really really good story. But she's
So,
always the person that I'm going to go to when I have a complex issue that I need to talk through, and she usually always gives me some great advice.
her name is like freaking cool. It sounds like a detective.
Yeah,
Angie Barnes Agency. We'll
yeah,
find your
exactly.
pet.
Yeah,
Cool. So, since we're talking about women,
yeah,
I know a ton of women in sales that are freaking fabulous, just like
yep.
really, really great at it. Do you think, kind of your thoughts? Is there, there's just good people, salespeople, and bad salespeople, or do you think there's a gender thing where one sex is better than the other?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want to say the wrong thing because we're in a highly sensitive time,
Mhm.
culture, and but I listen. I think that women can have an advantage in the marketplace. If they have everything else that goes with it, right? So you got to have the product knowledge, you got to have obviously communication skills and those types of things. And I think women can just be a little bit more disarming. A lot of times in our industry, most of the decision makers are men, so if they can create some sort of rapport and relationship quick, I think they can have some good
Yeah.
success. But at the same time, it can be intimidating, right? So it's kind of this dichotomy. But I think there's a lot of women that can be great salespeople, but think sometimes they feel like they can't do it because of their gender, which is unfortunate.
And I think one of the advantages they have is just they're hot wired for empathy more than guys. And in this sales culture, connecting with other human beings is that's where we build trust, and that's where sales happens. So I think it's not so much their sex, it's their hot wiring to be empathetic that just really ties well into this day and age in sales.
Yeah, I agree. It's just kind of their biological makeup, and yeah, I agree. If you can build that trust quickly, that's pretty important, and empathy is a big part of that.
So Anthony, I'm going to wave a magic wand. By the way, for this is it over here, and you are going to lose your job today, and you're going to go into a new industry. We'll pick one, and you're starting from ground zero, national accounts. How do you build this business up from ground zero? So pick an industry that isn't yours. What do you want to pick, Anthony?
We can do anything. Financial services. I'd probably go into soft cloud software, right? I think
All
that
right.
that's probably a good place to start.
So let's say cloud software, you're calling into the Fortune 2000, it's an ERP solution. You don't know anybody in the space. Walk me through the first week, the first month of what you'd start doing to start getting productive.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think, the takeaway here is going to be maybe reverse engineering things a little bit. So I think I see a lot of salespeople who get into the new company and they want to learn all about the product. They want to learn the products, want to learn how, the value proposition, learn all this stuff, which is great, and you should. They want to meet with vendors. I would stay away from doing that for the first 4 weeks, and the only thing that I would do would be try to set appointments, right? So, first of all, obviously, I would tap into my own network, right, and see who I know in the space and start there. Other than that, I would create a lead list and I would literally just be picking up the phone. I know it sounds old school, but at the end of the day, man, you can do a lot with the telephone, and I think the internet has babied people a little bit, some salespeople, and they want to do all this other stuff, social media. And I'm not saying that doesn't work, right? So I would build that out later. But if you were asking me what I would do, I wouldn't worry about so much about the product. I would learn a little bit of value proposition. I wouldn't be meeting with vendors. I wouldn't be going to lunch. I wouldn't be hanging out, right? All I want to do is set appointments. If I get appointments, then I can tap into the resources within my organization to help me in those appointments, or if I get opportunities, tap into other people to help me, build proposals and things like that. The only thing I want to do is schedule appointments to get my meeting or get my calendar full. That's all I would do.
Yeah, and that's actually super great advice, but really scary to people because one of the things that social media does is it gives people something to do. Oh, if I send the right LinkedIn message, then
Yeah.
they'll be more ready for my call. And the reality is, for most people, don't want to talk to you in the first place till they do. They get on the phone call and they go, "Okay, I'm glad you called." There's data out there that shows that a cold call at the right time puts people in the running for the final evaluation to be one of the vendors. So you call at the right time, you got a leg up of everyone else.
I'm a big proponent of the telephone, man. I think, we're even kind of in this space where, everything always comes back around. And I think especially with COVID and all this pandemic stuff that's happened, I think, people are more apt to taking a meeting, or at least taking your phone call. I think, social media is great if used properly, but I also think that it's very played out in the messaging. I think there's a lot of, obviously autonomy and bots. People are getting a little bit, sick of that. Now, if you have good messaging in your direct message, I think it can be effective as well. But I would start with the phone, right? I would build all that other stuff out later.
So you're starting with the phone, and one of the nice things about the phone is, like you said, you don't need to know a ton of stuff about your product to do that. There's a guy called Steve Richard. He is an expert at the phone. I had him come to Baltimore to do a presentation, and so he's talking about how to use the phone, how to use it effectively, and they've got a ton of calls recorded, and this software allows you to go to when did the salesperson go for the close, and the AI goes right to that section of the call so you can monitor. So then the guy says, "Okay, well, let me show you how it's done. Who here's got difficulty getting a hold of someone?" Some guy puts up his hand. He goes, "Okay, who are you trying to get a hold of?" Billy Bob. This is his number. He goes, "Oh, by the way, what industry are you in?" And the guy picks up the phone on stage, basically an iPhone, with his lapel mic on and in speaker mode, and does a phone call to that person, gets their receptionist, gets their assistant, figures out that's not the right person, figures out the right person, calls the right person, and lands the appointment. And it was
I love
just
it.
proving that you don't need to know the industry. It's just about connecting with them and saying you want a meeting and setting it.
Yeah, I
Then when you
agree.
get
I
a
love
meeting,
that story. I love that story. And a lot of times, salespeople overthink this stuff. They want to, close the deal on the call. All you're trying to do is get a meeting. And listen, sometimes, I would call people in that scenario and be like, hey, Mr. President, my name's Anthony. Listen, I'm brand new to the company. My job is to set meetings. I think based on your profile, we may be a good fit. I don't know that, but I'd love to bring in my
Mhm.
expert, talk to you about your goals and challenges for 15 minutes and see if, maybe we can help you. That's a that's just the conversation you would have with somebody, right? Where, we may be able to help, right? And most of the time people are like, you know what, listen, you guy, I'm gonna give this guy a shot. And that's really just a basic conversation that you could have with anybody without having to go in all kinds of details, know your product. And I think, sometimes we overthink it.
So let's take a look at you've got the appointment, you've got interest from the person, then in your business is a complex sale. So on that first appointment, then you realize, how do you figure out who all the players are? How do you set next step? Walk us through that, Anthony, and think of a specific client that you did that to, so you can actually go real life situation, change the names of the innocent to protect them. Walk us through that.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good point. So, because once you get the meeting, you definitely want to take advantage of your time, right? So, I think there's a couple things. Once you get the meeting set, I think there's some follow up that has to be done with that person, right? And I think we have to have some open transparency with them. Say, hey, listen, I know you're busy. We value your time. My time's valuable as well. So, I want to make sure that we're using our time as productive as we can, and to do that, I'd like to come to the meeting prepared. So if I ask you some quick questions, is there a way that we can get some of these answered so we can come to the meeting with maybe some ideas? And I think everybody will be pretty open to that, right? But so that's the first thing, right? So you get the meeting and maybe let it breathe for a day, and then follow back up. But yeah, the complex sale, there's going to be multiple decision makers on this account, right? So you're going to have a technical buyer, you're going to have someone who's cutting the check, someone who's a user buyer. I think back, probably a retail customer, 1,200 locations across the country. You get the meeting, and you're going in talking to somebody who's probably not the decision maker, maybe someone who's going to be using your product, which is a great meeting. It's a great place to start. But if you can get some other people in that meeting, you're going to have more success. And the only way to really do that is to get some information out of your user buyer, right? What are you currently using? How is it? How is it working? Right? Are you in any contracts? Things like that. Some basic questions about what their status quo, like we like to say. What are they using? And then you can come up with some sort of some ideas about how you could build out an ROI based on what right? But you have to preface that with, listen, but the goal of the meeting is to dig a little bit further into this stuff to see if there is really a good fit. But if you can build out that initial possible ROI, then your user buyer, or the person you're meeting with, can take that to maybe some other decision makers within the organization and then get them into that meeting, right? But you got to provide some value up front to get those other people into the meeting.
Brilliant. And one of the things that I've found is, once you get a meeting with the right person, land the appointment, and after you've landed it, then ask who else needs to be in that meeting.
Absolutely.
Don't ask the who else first, otherwise they won't book a meeting with you. So book the meeting. Once you've got it, then say who else needs to be there, and then get them to add it in. Otherwise, it'll lengthen the sales cycle.
Absolutely. Yeah. You always want to try to get those people in. But yeah, you make a good point. You always want to ask that, but you don't want to ask it up front, because it takes the percentage of you landing that meeting down a little bit. So obviously not being unethical, but there's a strategic way to do things in just a, psychological way. Right.
So yesterday I was at Panera Bread, and they probably got more than 2 locations. And there was a young lady ahead of me. She's a grade 2 school teacher. And she was like, "Oh, go ahead of me, because I can't figure out what I want." And I just mentioned to her, do you know why they have specials in restaurants? They're designed for people like you, that there's a separate sheet with just like 3 items on it. So you can just pick one instead of, 73 items. And so with our prospects, we don't want to give them too many options. That just overwhelms. It's just one. Basically what you want is, yes, I want to meet with you. No, I don't want to meet with you. Or I need to check with my mommy before I can meet with you. And then if that happens, you need to calendar an appointment. When are you going to check with your mommy? Let's talk back on Wednesday. And if you give too many options, it just creates paralysis.
Yeah, no, completely agree 100%. And I think, that's right on when you're trying to set a meeting, but it's also right on when you're gonna propose a solution, right? Because at the end of the day, you're supposed to be the expert on your technology, and you're supposed to be the expert on how you can help them. And if you go in with too many options, again, you're just going to provide confusion, which is not good. And I always tell people too, right? The great salespeople get to a no quicker than mediocre salespeople. I don't care if it's a no, to be honest with you, right? I just get there quicker so that I can go on and find somebody else who is a better fit, right? So, and I think simplifying it is an
Yeah.
important way to get to a no. Great salespeople get to a no quick.
And I'm not sure who it was, like one of these guru types recently I came across, and he was saying, your job is to get the no. You're actually on this call to get a no from the person, and it just allowed salespeople to just take a breath, and it's like, okay, I can get no's. I've been getting them all the time, but I've been fretting about it. Now it's just like I got to a no fast. Let's move on. And what's kind of interesting is if I came to do a job interview at your company, if you didn't have standards, you'd hire me. But let's say that wasn't the case. I came in and I desperately needed that job. The chances of me landing it, I think, go down more than they help. And if I came in, I don't give a shit. I got another job in the back pocket, and I come totally relaxed and easy. There's a really good chance. There's a better chance I'll get that job if I'm being more chill about it. But if I'm fretting about it or I've got desperation, then it just doesn't attract. It repels people. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. I think it goes in, confidence is the X factor in all achievement. People want to be around confident people. It's it can be. I'm sorry, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but people just, are attracted to confidence, right? And it's the same thing if you're going into a job interview. It's the same thing if you're going into a sales meeting. It's the same thing if you're dating. It's
Yep,
it's it's
absolutely.
it's all the same, right? So I think you hit the nail on the head. Now, I wouldn't necessarily be nonchalant, but what comes, how you get confident, right? Is preparation, right? So
Yeah.
I know I've put the work in, right? And because I know I've put the work in, I feel I deserve the win, whether that's this new job or this prospect or this date, right? Which creates confidence, right? And I think confidence is literally the X factor in achievement.
And actually, I wrote that down because I thought that was like freaking awesome, and I'll attribute it to you. But I think it's awesome. The other thing that came up was as you were chatting is confidence is an aphrodisiac.
Mm, yeah.
Really is. That's the difference between two. So when you are calling people, go for the no, take the pressure off, be more chill about it, and help them get to know faster. Or uh, they say yes, in which case, land the appointment. Don't back away.
It's just a mindset shift, right? It's just a perspective, right? So it's the guy who's picking up the phone and saying, "Oh, I don't want to get a no," and it's the girl that's picking up the phone saying, "A no just gets me closer to a yes," right?
And that is so frustrating when trainers say that. Hey, you're going for a no because you're going to get to the yes faster, and that does not make you feel any better. But if you have a different mindset shift, it helps. So, Anthony, a couple of things before we end our conversation today. Number one, what is a mind hack, a technique that you use to allow you to be more effective?
So literally one of the biggest mindset shifts that I've had is comes around problems and challenges, right? Because I think the most successful people manage problems and challenges, right? So this kind of came about just from having salespeople around the office. So all new salespeople, they're always they come in, they're complaining about customer problems, right? I
Yep.
got a customer problem. I got a challenge with the customer because we deal in a complex environment. There's always going to be customer problems. And I started thinking to myself, I'm like, listen, man, you're always going to have problems, right? So, it's either you're going to have the problem of the customer problem or the problem is you don't have any customers. So which problem
Do
do
you
you
want? Yeah.
want, right? And that's the mindset shift, right? It's like, okay, I don't get up every day saying, "Oh man, I gotta go make 100 cold calls." I get up saying, I get to make 100 cold calls, right, or whatever that
Yep.
sounds like in your everyday. But it's just the mindset shift of looking at things from a different lens. Because I've been the guy, 15 years ago with no customers. That's a fucking problem that I don't want to have,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But now I have customer problems, which is it's a better problem to have, right? So you're always going to have them.
So the other thing that's kind of interesting is Anthony, you're a liar. because you're telling me about your customer service and how great you are and how you look after your customers. And if there's no problem, I don't really know that. But when a problem happens and you step up, you go from being like a good vendor to a great vendor, because most people don't do that. And a problem is an opportunity to shine, and it's an opportunity to strengthen the relationship. Because until that happens, everyone's talking the same game, and it's when problems happen is when great companies step up and great salespeople step up.
Completely agree. I mean, it's the biggest differentiator in the marketplace in any industry. I don't care what it is, how quickly can you provide a solution when there's going to be a problem? Because there's always going to be a problem. So that responsiveness, as will strengthen a relationship more than a relationship that's never had a problem.
Which is counterintuitive, but that's the way it is. Last question for you, Anthony, is what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? So, I'd say, probably even as close as 5 years ago, driving revenue and closing deals made me the happiest. It still makes me really, really happy. But now it's obviously watching my kids grow up and seeing and just knowing that they're always watching. Right. So I think there's this interesting dynamic with kids. I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and actually an 8-week-old. Right, so
Well,
I got the twins.
congratulations.
Yeah, so thank you, I appreciate it. There's this dynamic with kids is super interesting, right? So you try to we as parents, we try to teach them something in the moment, right? And we feel like, okay, they probably didn't get that, or maybe they did get that. But then, weeks will go by and something will come up, and you'll see them in their environment do or say something that you do or say, right, in a positive way that you never taught them. You tried to, or you didn't try to teach them that lesson. And it makes you a proud parent. But the I say that to say they're always watching, they're always looking. So they're making us be better people, because we always got
Yes.
to be on we always got to be on our game, right? So that's what makes me really, really happy is one to provide for my family, right, my wife and my kids, but to see the influence I have on my children is pretty powerful. So
Brilliant. There's a quote I came across a long time ago. When something like this, parents don't raise children, children raise adults.
it's true. It's true. They're a mirror. They're a mirror of us, the good and the bad. So if you're paying attention, it's a great opportunity to do some personal development, because they're the best therapists that you could have, but just by watching them.
Brilliant. Anthony, thanks so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed it. I took some notes, and confidence is the X factor to achievement. I wrote that down, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, man. It was a good time chatting with you. And if there's anything else I can do, man, just let me know. I hope we provide some value to your audience, man.
You did. Thank you.